Top of the morning to you. Welcome to our daily morning motivational message. It is Thriving Thursday, and we do this motivational message every morning because motivation is like taking a bath, personal hygiene. You want to do it every day to maintain a standard of mental clarity, mental acuity, mental toughness. And the way that you do that is by constantly plugging into a source. You want to stay around the campfire of big thinking, the campfire of striving, the campfire of ambition and drive and destination of success. When you set your GPS, you want to set the destination for a successful outcome, for your personal growth and development, for your mental intestinal fortitude. There's something that's been said. People will say, I have a gut feeling about this. I just had to trust my gut. Well, did you know that there are brain mechanisms in your gut? There's a connection between some of the neurons in your brain and in your gut. That's why you'll hear people say, I have a gut feeling. I just didn't, there was something in the pit of my stomach that made me feel, etc. Well, that's a real thing. That's a real biological thing. So in your ability to stay close to that campfire of bigger thinking, greater success, that's going to be determined by the choices that you make. You show me who you're spending your leisure time with. Show me how you're spending your leisure time. Are you surrounding yourself with thinking that is outthinking you? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are challenging conventional wisdom, challenging the status quo? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are constantly uncomfortable with their current situation and they're striving for something more? It's about the environment. There's something called the Pygmalion effect. So they were taking notice of individuals when you put them in certain environments and what happens. So, for example, the Ohio State Buckeyes. So, anybody that knows anything about college football, you know who the Ohio State Buckeyes are. They've won a national championship in the last 2 years. And so, when you look at athletes that come out of high schools that are highly touted, highly recruited, and you take that athlete and you put him in the Ohio State Buckeyes environment, all of a sudden they're performing to a higher level, a higher standard because of the standard of the Ohio State Buckeyes. You take that same athlete and you ship them off to a lesser known, a lesser performing school, same athlete. Well, all of a sudden, they're not as sharp. They're not as much of a standout because the standard at that particular school is lower. So the Pygmalion effect demonstrates that when you put yourself in an environment where the expectations are high, where people are performing to their best every single day and trying to get better, you naturally are going to rise to that level of expectation. Whereas for most people, if you think about it, they're surrounded with a less than extraordinary standard. They're surrounded by mediocrity. They're surrounded by status quo. So you have to be very intentional with how you are directing your leisure time, how you're directing the people that you are intentionally surrounding yourself with. Now, remember, I've said this many times, most people surround themselves with other people who give them permission to stay the way they are. So they're not going to challenge them. They're not going to put them on Front Street and say, look, man, why don't you level up? Like, you keep complaining about the economy, you're complaining about your job, you're complaining about this, that, and the other, but you're not doing anything about it. You're not raising your level of expectation. You're not leveling up. You're just going along to get along. So I want you to really start to put forth some effort. I want you to focus on your growth. And so if you're not putting yourself in that environment, you're missing out on an opportunity to level up. You're missing out on an opportunity for your own personal growth and your own expansion. So who are the 5 people that you are intentionally spending time with every single day? Outside of, if you're a parent, if you're, I'm not talking about your parents or your kids, all right, because you got to, that's different. And even then, you're leading your kids, and sometimes with parents, you have to kind of be economical with how much time you spend, because sometimes people have parents that, again, they love them, but they're not helping them to grow. So your friends, those people that you spend time with, is very important. My One of my mentors said to me, "Listen, if you look at the five people that you're choosing to spend most of your time with, you're usually earning within 3 to 5 thousand of what they earn." And so sometimes that's a good indicator. It's the numbers can tell us a lot. Are you around people whose incomes are so high it makes you uncomfortable? Whose incomes are so high it makes you question what you're doing about your income? That's a good thing, because it's going to challenge you to stretch and grow and impose higher standards on yourself. If you're spending your leisure time scrolling and being constantly distracted by all of the mechanisms of social media and the internet and the algorithms that are designed to keep you distracted, again, that's an indicator that you're not going to grow. You're not going to expand. You're not going to give yourself an opportunity to level up. So please really take the time to be intentional about how you're spending your time, especially your leisure time. So, for example, if you have a job, and ideally there will be opportunities for you to grow on your job, maybe there's some things that your job does that challenges you to get better. Hopefully, that's the case. But whether it is or not, there are things that you can continue to raise your standard on that are beyond your job. So I want you to perform at a high level in whatever your job is. I want you to perform at a high level in terms of your career pursuits. I want you to continue to grow and stretch in terms of the people that you're surrounding yourself with and the expectations. The Pygmalion effect is a real thing. So if you are intentionally surrounding yourself with high achievers and peak performers and people that are constantly stretching and growing, you're going to automatically begin to level up as a direct result of that. That's a benefit, okay? If you're intentional with your leisure time, so you're not getting sucked into the vortex of the scrolling universe, you're not getting sucked into the vortex of social media, algorithms, and emotional distractions, and you are very intentional with picking up a book and reading it, you're saying, you know what? I am going to focus on, the books that I'm reading and the concepts that I'm getting better with. I'm going to be very intentional with ancient texts, okay? And being very intentional with my leisure time in terms of what I'm reading. I'm going to be doing things each and every day that are going to help me increase my intestinal fortitude, that are going to challenge me to get better every single day, because I'm holding myself to a higher standard. When you look at environments, you could take the environment of Apple, for example. Most of us are familiar, if we don't own it, but we know that there's the iPhone. Think about the environment that created the iPhone. Think about this. So people were going into a work environment where the demands were so high, the expectation was so high. You were either going to get pushed up or pushed out. And if you held yourself to account and held yourself to a higher standard, you got a chance to be a part of something that was literally going to change the world, because somebody set a tone of expectation. Somebody set a tone of having a very, very high standard. And when people came into that, the Pygmalion effect took impact. And so all of a sudden they were doing things they didn't think that they could do. And if you ever look or listen to some of the interviews of people that were working for Apple at the time that Steve Jobs was at the helm, many of them will say he was not a nice person. He was a pain in the ass. But I'm so grateful for my time there, because I did things that I didn't think I could do. And so that's the power of how you choose to spend your leisure time. It's the power of who you choose to spend your leisure time with. It doesn't mean that you can't have fun and hang out with people. You love your friends and extended family and like have a good time. It just means that you're more intentional with the bulk of your leisure time as you're working toward your greater goals, your greater ambitions, your greater aspirations. But you have to construct this environment on your own. It is not going to be thrust upon you. The majority of the population is not going to be subject to an environment like Apple. They're not going to be subject to an environment where you have great leadership that demands excellence out of you. You have to find that. You got to seek that out or create it for yourself. Okay? It's just not going to happen. So I just want to challenge you to understand the power of the Pygmalion effect and to be more intentional about creating that environment. If you're having, if you have relationships in your life where, hey, I love these people, but they're not necessarily challenging me to level up in my life. They're not necessarily challenging me to get better spiritually, to get better in my fitness, to get better with my finances, to get better with my income, to get better with my intellect. We just have a good time. That's fine. But maybe there's some opportunity for you to build some new relationships. Maybe there's some opportunity for you to put yourself in some different environments where you can meet new people that are wanting more, that are wanting to level up. I'll give you an example. A week from today, I'm going to be in a totally different environment where there's high achievers and leaders and peak performers and people that are very intentional about their income and their impact. And being in that environment, being immersed with and surrounded by other like-minded people that are like me, who are out of their minds, who are obsessed and that have a madness to them about a success and achievement and growth. Do you understand what that's going to do for my mindset? Like being immersed in that type of environment for 3 days. Like, do you understand that? Like, that's so important. And so every opportunity that I can think of to put myself in the environment. So for today, I'm not in the environment, but I can get with the books and I can read, I can learn, I can grow, and I can surround myself with concepts and ideas that challenge me to get better, that are go against the status quo, that go against the mediocre masses. I can surround myself with thinking that is outthinking me just by the books that I'm reading, right? You see this picture? That's a good picture, right? So that's the power that we possess. And I can continue to cultivate relationships that go beyond the status quo. I can continue to seek out and develop and attract by how I live my life, by the example that I set, by how I show up every day. I can meet people and attract people that have that same madness quality to greatness, that are obsessed with greatness. So I want to encourage you today to go out and create your own Pygmalion effect. Create your own standard that is so supreme, that is so excellent, that just by living by that standard, you attract other greatness to you. So go against the grain, ladies and gentlemen. Be a contrarian, be different, and be excellent in all things. If you got some value, please like and subscribe. And if you can see this serving someone else, please like and share it with other people, because it is a blessing to be a blessing. Have an awesome, thriving Thursday. See you tomorrow.